Is the Raheem Sterling nightmare finally coming to an end? Talks ongoing for centre-back Jeremy Jacquet. Cole Palmer's not going anywhere. Douglas Luiz has signed for Aston Villa, but apparently we weren't that interested anyway. And Axel Disasi expected to leave before the window closes. Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC. And courtesy of Kaveh Solhekol of Sky Sports News, we've got a lot of updates about players today. So strap in, get comfortable, grab yourself a tasty beverage while we unpack this litany of transfer news. But guys, before we get into it, if you are enjoying the video and would like to see more, please do me the distinct honour of liking and sharing this video, subscribe to the channel, or just roast me in the comments, whatever gets you through your day. Right, so if you're a Chelsea fan, then ultimately this window has probably been a bit boring so far. Obviously, it started off with a massive bang with the whole Enzo Maresca stuff. The Jeremy Jacquet news kind of popped about and looked like we were making something happen. And it seems like we've left everything to the last week in order to get some news done. But if things are to be believed, we are looking at ins and outs. So Kaveh Solhekol of Sky News, very well known for popping up in and around transfer windows. And he's got like connections to clubs and stuff. And, you know, he's an insider, a football insider. He did an interview on Sky Sports News, but he also dropped a massive tweet. And we are basically just going to go through this tweet and we're going to unpack all of this news. So the first and chunkiest part of this tweet pertains to Raheem Sterling. And Kaveh Solhekol had this to say: Chelsea in talks with Raheem Sterling and his representatives, and a solution is expected to be found before the window closes on Monday. It is expected he will no longer be a Chelsea player after Monday. Sterling has been training away from the first team squad, and he still has 18 months left to run on a contract worth more than £300,000 a week. Oh, it's ridiculous, isn't it? The player does not want to leave on another loan deal. There is still time to find a potential permanent move, or an agreement could be reached regarding his contract. Either way, a solution is expected by Monday. So, Raheem Sterling, I mean, obviously he wants out. We know that he wants out. He's been, you know, on the fringes, not even on the fringes. Obviously, he spent last season at Arsenal and couldn't get into their squad either. The whole confusing, complicated thing with Sterling is the wage and the length of the contract that he's on, but also his own personal preferences to stay in London, right? So, although it wasn't mentioned in this tweet, what I have seen as well is that the club and him are basically probably going to terminate the contract, and that's a stinger, man. That's an absolute stinger, because he's on 300k a week. He's still got 18 months left. This is going to cost 20 million plus just to get rid of him. But at the end of the day, getting his wages off the books so I looked into all this stuff a little while ago, especially with the UEFA concerns. It's about the List A cost ratio, I think it's called. And essentially what it means, although, yes, we can sell players to generate cash to fund transfers immediately, the issue we've got is about the overall squad cost ratio, right? And Raheem Sterling getting off of the books frees up a lot of space in that squad cost ratio in order for us to go out and sign more players. Because if we don't get rid of him before next summer, then essentially we're not going to be able to register any players for the next European competition, should we get into it. So, for instance, just as a little example, selling Tyreek George, right? That'd be great, because we'd get, like 20, 25 mil on the book straight away to go out and buy a player. But he's an academy player, so there's no amortised fee to remove off the books, and also his wages are very, very small. So that even though we get the cash influx from selling him, which allows us to go and buy the player, it doesn't reduce the squad cost ratio at all, because, like I say, no amortised fee, and his wages are tiny. Whereas if you look at Sterling was bought for 50 mil, so there's still probably like 10 mil-ish, maybe a little bit less than that, of amortised fee left to pay for him, and also his 300k a week comes straight off of the books. So that frees up a massive chunk in the squad cost ratio to go out and sign better players. I don't think anyone's going to be particularly sad to see the back of Raheem Sterling. And, you know, obviously when Rosenior came in, he was like, I'm going to talk to Raheem, I'm going to talk to Disasi, and everyone was like, oh, is there room for them back in the squad? Like, I just never thought either of them, but we'll get into Disasi a little bit later, but I never thought it was a good idea to get either of them back. I kind of justified it a tiny bit if we were going to keep one of them. I guess Sterling has experience and winning mentality, all that time with Man City, and do you know what I mean? Obviously was a top level player in his time, and maybe that's good for some of the young players around us. But as a player, not really, man, and it's not really worth paying someone 300k a week just to help out the young'uns, do you know what I mean? So ultimately, the news is good. It's moving forward, it's progressing. Sterling wants to leave, we want Sterling to leave. It is just about finding the best way to do it. If we terminate his contract, I guess, yeah, we'll have to pay him the rest of what he's owed in that 18 months, that 300k. I'm not going to do the maths. as of right now, but it's fairly easy. It's 300k times 18, which is what we'll have to pay him. And I imagine he'd probably be willing to take a lesser wage. Do you know what I mean? If he were to move to another London club, whether it be a Palace, a Fulham, a West Ham, a Brentford, or whatever, they're not going to be able to afford to pay him 300k a week. But, he will have made serious bank just by cancelling this deal. And ultimately, he will still earn more money because he gets all of his, contract money from us for the next 18 months. And if he can get 100 to 150k a week from another London club, then he's still 150k plus for the next 18 months. Do you know what I mean? So it kind of does work for all parties, and maybe we could see him end up at the likes of, like I said, a West Ham, a Fulham, or a Crystal Palace. And we move on. Jérémy Jacquet, right? This has been ongoing for a while. So the first interesting thing I saw about this today wasn't actually in this tweet again. It was to do with Bayern Munich's interest apparently has waned, and now they are switching their priorities to Konate of Liverpool. So that is one good thing already, because it was Chelsea, Liverpool, and Bayern Munich were the three big clubs that were apparently in for him. So in regards to what Kaveh Solhekol had to say about him, it was this: Jérémy Jacquet, the player has expressed a preference for joining Chelsea despite interest from multiple clubs. That's a good sign. Talks are ongoing between René and Chelsea about a deal for the 20-year-old centre-back. Ideally, René want to keep the player until the summer. So this is good and bad news, I guess, at the end of the day. It's one of those, isn't it, where I'm still unsure about... We've brought back Aaron Anselmino. There is a clause in Mamadou Sarr's contract saying that we could bring him back as well. But ultimately, it looks like if we do get the Jérémy Jacquet deal over the line, it's probably going to be for next summer. Now, he's a highly rated player. Lots of big clubs really, really interested in him, and it's probably the money that's put Bayern Munich off. Do you know what I mean? Bayern Munich probably won't be hugely interested in spending 50 to 60 mil, which is kind of 60, 70 mil euros for them on a 20-year-old centre-back, because, German clubs generally just don't spend quite as much money as Premier League clubs do. But if Liam Rosinia will have a reasonably good idea about what this player can do, because he spent obviously the first 6 months of this year in the French league. I don't think he played very much for them last season. This has definitely been his breakout season. But either way, Rosinia has kind of come in and said, I want this guy. Yeah, okay, cool. If it's just going to happen this way, it's going to happen this way. It seems like a lot of money to drop on a very young centre-back. We don't normally do that, do you know what I mean? Normally when we drop the big bucks on players, it's kind of to bring them into the first team, and it has not always gone well. You think about Jamie Gittins, for instance. He was like 50 mil plus, and he's not exactly setting the world alight at the moment, is he? But, on the other side of that, Marc Cucurella cost 60 mil, and he's absolutely fantastic. So we'll have to see what happens with that one, but ultimately it looks like there is still a reasonably strong chance, based on the fact that he has a preference to join Chelsea for some reason. I don't know what it is. But ultimately, yeah, like I say, man, it could very well be that we do sort of sign Jérémy Jacquet, but we loan him back to René for the rest of the season, and it's going to cost a bomb, but if he's a player that Rosinia wants, I think that's just really promising in terms of the narrative of the whole Chelsea Blueco thing at the moment, not giving the manager what he wants. Do you know what I mean? I genuinely do still believe if Maresca was here right now, he'd be getting a centre-back. Do you know what I mean? He'd be getting the centre-back that he wanted. And it might not have been Jérémy Jacquet. It might have been someone that was easier to bring in for the here and now. Obviously, this does, as we've talked about a little bit recently, still raise questions about Josh Achiampong and, how's he going to feel about us spending big on another centre-back that is in and around his age when the centre-back is a position that he wants to play, but ultimately he'll have another 6 months at this club to kind of put a stake a claim for that spot, because I'm not sure about you guys, but I don't want to keep on seeing Badiashile and Tosin and even Disasi, who we're going to get into in a minute. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to see any of these guys if I can avoid it. I'd much rather see Josh given a chance. But Jérémy Jacquet looks like it's possible. Probably going to be a tough deal to make happen, but we'll see. Right, moving on to Cole Palmer. This is quite a short and sweet one, but Kaveh said Cole Palmer is untouchable and happy at Chelsea. He is contracted until, that says 2023, but obviously that means 2032, and a key player for the future of the club. Cole Palmer is on a stupendous, bombastic, decade-long deal. Do you know what I mean? Or not, it's not decade-long anymore, but Cole Palmer is just, going to cost so much money, man. All of the talk has been about Cole Palmer is homesick and he wants to go back up north, and he's maybe open to the idea of Manchester United coming in for him. I get that from if it's purely the homesick thing. Yeah, okay, cool. I understand that at the end of the day. But if you look at all of the other factors, like, aside from what Rosinia's had to say about him being happy and stuff, Cole Palmer is still coming back from his injury worries. He's not exactly hit the ground running this season, has he? Let's be completely honest. We all know what he can do, but at the moment, there's massive red flashing question marks above the head of, can Cole Palmer get back to his best? I truly believe that he can, but Man United, looking at it from Man United's perspective, Man United went and bought Mason Mount off of us for 70 mil plus, like nearly 80 mil. Absolutely ridiculous money. He was injured when they bought him, and he was injured for the first 2 seasons and barely got into their squad. If Man United want Cole Palmer, they're going to have to pay 100 mil plus for him. Easy. 120 minimum. 150 if he scored a couple of goals by the end of the season. And are they going to be looking at that being 100%, that's 150 mil, absolutely, definitely well spent. Obviously the talent, yes, but the potential idea, we've already spent this money on Cole Palmer, so we have got the vested interest in order to nurse him back to health. But I'm a Man United who don't have a permanent manager, by the way, albeit they're on, a really good stretch of form at the moment. They beat Man City, they beat Arsenal, they're really, really turning it around, 100%. But is Carrick going to be their manager? Does Cole Palmer want to go and play for Michael Carrick as much as Liam Rosinia? I don't know. I just think there's so many things to this deal, even outside of, would Cole Palmer like to go, that it's, from a Man United perspective, I don't even think they just look at it and go, yes, there's 120 mil for faceless manager that may come in next season. Do you know what I mean? I think it's really, really complicated. And ultimately, getting aside to the other reason that it probably won't happen, Cole Palmer, according to Liam Rosinia, unless he's a barefaced liar, is happy at Chelsea, man. Do you know what I mean? We've given him a massive opportunity. There's been loads of trust. He's on a good deal. And there's still a lot of belief that he can come back and become his best. And regardless, we're not looking to replace him. Do you know what I mean? This is the other thing as well, is we are going forward, obviously, with the idea that Cole Palmer, we want to nurse him back to health. We want to get him back to his best, and we want him to be part of this team. So I just think that there's so many obvious reasons why this story, and like Rosinia said in his press conference as well, to be fair, new manager comes in, all of a sudden Cole Palmer's unhappy, this, that, and the other. Do you know what I mean? It does make sense. So yes, Cole Palmer, staying at Chelsea for now, probably for the long term. At the end of the day, if Cole Palmer has another season where he scores 15 plus goals and is a massive, massive part of the team, gets 10 assists or whatever, and we don't make Champions League, or we're not looking at a title challenge, you know what I mean? Those are the two things that have to go together. At the moment, the team's not doing amazingly well. We obviously would like to be doing a lot better than we are. But I think for Cole Palmer to be a real target, he's going to have had to have a strong season as well. Do you know what I mean? Like a Real Madrid or a Bayern Munich or a City or a Manchester United potentially will want to look at Palmer having a good season and know the money that they're going to spend is going to benefit them. So that's kind of where I'm at with Cole Palmer. That's where Rosinia and Solhekol are with Cole Palmer as well. And ultimately, hopefully, that's where Cole Palmer is right now. Right, okay, Douglas Luiz, Brazilian centre midfielder. I thought was a good idea. It looked like we needed some experience in our squad. Our midfield has been really thin recently. But Kaveh had this to say on Douglas Luiz. Chelsea never followed up on their reported interest in the player. They declined to pursue a deal because they have Andre Santos and Romeo Lavia back in training, and Dario Basugo will be back in 3 weeks, and they have Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez. So that's kind of counter to what we were hearing in and around the start of the window, wasn't it? Because kind of what we heard is we're going for a midfielder or whatever. But interestingly, obviously, Romeo Lavia has been mentioned in there. He's been seen back in training and stuff. That's good. Liam Rosinia kind of mentioned a little while ago that he was back on the grass, but declined to give any kind of timeframes. And I do think that was the best thing to do. Now, when you look at it on the face of it, the amount of names that we've got in, none of the names we've got are players that we particularly want to move on, are they? Dario Basugo's only just hit the squad and he's been really, really unlucky with injuries. Romeo Lavia has been so injury prone. I don't think he's played 90 minutes since we bought him in 2023, so that's a bit of a worry. Andre Santos, transformative to the team at the moment, and he's become a big part of Liam Rosinia's setup already. And then obviously we've got Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez. Moises Caicedo, obviously one of the best sixes in the world. Enzo Fernandez has been one of our best players this season. So when you look at it on the face of it, we've got 5 players for 2 positions at the end of the day. And Reece James can play there, and I don't know if he will under Rosinia, but we've obviously seen Malagusto feature there as well. So when you look at it, we've actually got 6 or 7 players that can play in the midfield. So It will. I don't know. At the end of the day, Douglas Luiz has gone to Aston Villa, and that makes sense. I think it's a loan deal as well. Then it might have been something to do with the fact that Juventus were trying to put an obligation to buy clause in the deal. Like, we weren't looking for someone to buy at the end of the season. Do you know what I mean? But Aston Villa might be quite happy to do that because he's played his best football under Unai Emery at Aston Villa, so it makes a lot more sense for him to go there. And for us, I'm a little bit concerned. I'm not going to lie. I am a little bit concerned because the injury stuff, man, it's just the injury stuff, isn't it? Look, I think, at the end of the day, if Romeo Lavia was fit, then we wouldn't even be having this conversation. If Romeo Lavia was able to string more than 3 performances together without going missing for 2 months, then we absolutely wouldn't be having this conversation because Romeo Lavia is a fantastic midfielder. He offers our midfield something different. And for me personally, and some other Chelsea fans, our midfield looks like it ticks along better when Romeo Lavia is there. Enzo Fernandez is not a 6 at the end of the day, but Romeo Lavia is a 6 and can play a little bit further forward as well. So I think when you've got a Romeo Lavia aside a Moises Caicedo, that's kind of the strongest our deep midfield looks. And I do think Enzo Fernandez kind of looks better in an attacking 8, kind of a sort of a number 10, like in and around the attacking areas. It's difficult to kind of pinpoint what Enzo Fernandez is. So just going to have to put our trust in the club with this one. If this is the story that's coming out, that actually, looking at it, we've got 6 midfielders, although injuries have been a worry, maybe there's a feeling that Romeo Lavia is going to be better this time. I mean, the worrying thing, I spoke to my friend Kai about this, it was like different injuries. Do you know what I mean? He kept picking up different injuries. It wasn't even just a reoccurrence of the same one. So, I mean, I guess weirdly, maybe that's a positive thing. But for instance, maybe it's not like it was with Reece James because that was the hamstring problem. Do you know what I mean? That was the problem that plagued him, and every time he came back, he had the same reoccurrence of that same injury, and they fixed it out now. Maybe the fact that Romeo Lavia's had different injuries points more towards it being unlucky, I hope. I don't know, man. I don't know. Like I say, I love the idea of Romeo Lavia getting back into the squad. Dario Usugo's been a bit of a worry because he's come back a few times and gotten injured again. Do you know what I mean? So we're going to have to see what happens with them. But if Liam Rosinia is happy with these guys for the rest of the season, then we're just going to have to see what happens. But ultimately, like I said, there is also Reece James there who can depth in that position. And finally, to wrap up, we're going to talk a little bit about Axel Disasi because there's one small little addendum to this tweet from Kaveh Solhekol. Axel Disasi expected to leave before the window closes. Multiple clubs interested in England, Germany, France and Italy. West Ham is an option. Go, just leave, please, just leave. Oh, I don't know, man, I don't know. The thing with, I've got kind of the least amount of sympathy for Axel Disasi than I do for anyone else that's ever been in the bomb squad, because Axel Disasi had offers on the table from Bournemouth, Wolves and West Ham in the summer. Do you know what I mean? But he was like, nope, I only want to go to Europe. It's like, mate, you're Axel Disasi. Do you know what I mean? You're not Aymeric Laporte, or do you know what I mean? Like, you're not this guy that can just kind of be like, oh yeah, I'm going to choose where I want to go because I've played so well. He had a reasonably good loan at Aston Villa in the back end of last season, but he didn't exactly set the world alight, do you know what I mean? So with Sterling, like if Sterling would have had offers from West Ham or, do you know what I mean, he'd have gone there, do you know what I mean? Because he was like, yeah, I want to stay in London and it works for me. Axel Disasi had offers in order to go and play football in this season for reasonably good clubs. Now, I say reasonably good clubs, West Ham have obviously had a very difficult season, but ultimately England, Germany, France and Italy, right? So Germany, France and Italy, it's interesting because we've just recalled Aaron Anselmino as well. Now, if we don't recall Mamadou Sarr and send Aaron Anselmino to Strasbourg, then that actually frees up a loan spot, which is something we didn't have before. Although saying that, David Datro Fofana has been recalled to be sold as well, I think. I'll have to look into that one a little bit later. But ultimately, it looks like we might have a spot or two available in order to loan Axel Disasi to a European club if necessary. And it makes more sense because he'll be on a bigger wage, right? So, yeah, this is just a thing, man. Axel Disasi, for me, just needs to go. Do you know what I mean? I think it's the best for us. It's the best for him. If there is any club that wants him and is willing to pull the trigger, then they absolutely just should. I think we're just so far beyond the point of, does he get a chance, this, that and the other? Like, I don't really feel sorry for him about the bomb squad thing because he turned down the most amount of opportunities. Sterling had opportunities as well, but Axel Disasi had ultimately better opportunities to stay in the Premier League, and he said no. So I think Axel Disasi needs to swallow his pride and just take the best offer that comes to him, and if only one offer comes to him, he needs to take it, because what he absolutely can't do is not play football for an entire season, because I don't think he's going to get back into the squad. Do you know what I mean? I think that if Axel Disasi was going to be reintegrated into the squad, it probably would have already happened, wouldn't it? I think he might have trained with the first team once, but that was probably more in an essence to get him a little bit of fitness, rather than feeling like, oh, maybe he can come back into the squad, because I don't see him being any better or different than Badiashile or Tosin Adarabioyo. I see them all in and around the same kind of way. So, yeah, man, England, Germany, France and Italy. There are clubs that are interested in him at the end of the day. West Ham is an option. West Ham have been credited with interest in Axel Disasi for a little while, actually. So we'll just have to see what happens, man. The big story was AC Milan for a while, but that maybe is called off, but maybe that's the Italian club that's interested in him. Either way, I think it's time for Axel Disasi to go. So that's it, guys. That was a big, old, massive tweet that we've just unpacked from Kaveh Solhekol there. And there's lots of really good news, I think. As of Raheem Sterling, getting him off the books is one of our biggest barriers to being able to sign players. Honestly, it is. I know it's weird because we're going to actually lose money from this deal, the liquidity, the cash, whatever. But for instance, if we were to, although there's not much talk about him, if we were to sell Tyreek George and lose Raheem Sterling because we cancelled his contract, that would just about even out the books, but free up lots of space in our squad cost ratio in order for us to go out and get more players. Do you know what I mean? So that's good. Jeremy Jacquet, we'll just have to see what happens. That's a bit of a complicated one, but it does look like it's gearing towards the end of the season in the summer. Cole Palmer, he's staying. He ain't going anywhere. Douglas Luiz, it's a shame. We do have a lot of midfielders. Probably the story here that I'm most concerned about, because if Romeo Lavia gets some game time soon and then just gets injured again, that's just going to have to be it at that point, isn't it? Like, he just won't be able to be considered as an option. And Axel Disasi, yeah, just go. I think it's just the best. Nice one, guys. I'm going to wrap the video up there. Thank you very much for sticking around until the end. If you did, I will catch up with you all very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.